From here, a war arose against me on the part of priests. Some would say that it was a pretense, some that beating was needed, others that I wanted to make myself believed a saint. Some would add that I was possessed, and many other things, such that if I wanted to tell them all, the story would be too long. So with these ideas in their minds, when the sufferings would occur and my family would send for one of them, they would have such strange reactions that my poor family suffered very much, especially my poor mama. How many tears she shed for me. O Lord, reward her. You yourself. O my good Lord, how much I suffered on this side. You alone know everything. So who can say how bitter this situation turned out to be for me? That the priest was needed in order to free me from that state of sufferings. How many times I prayed, shedding most bitter tears, that he would free me. How many times I made explicit resistance to the Lord when he wanted me to offer myself as victim and accept the pains. I would say to him, Lord, promise me that you will free me yourself, and then I will accept everything. Otherwise, no, I don't want to accept. And I would resist the first day, the second, the third. But who can resist God? He would tell me so many things that in the end, I was forced to submit myself to the cross. Other times I would say to him from the heart and with familiarity, Lord, how is it that you have done this? How can this be? Between you and me, you wanted to put a third now? And this third one does not want to make himself available? See, we could have been so content, the two of us. When you wanted me to suffer, I would immediately accept because I knew that you yourself would free me. There is no need of another hand now. I beg you, free me, and both of us will be more content. At times he pretended not to hear me, and he would not tell me anything. Other times, then, he would say to me, do not fear. I am the one who gives darkness and light. The time of light will come. It is my usual way to manifest my works through priests. So I spent 3 or 4 years of these contradictions on the part of priests. Many times they subjected me to very hard trials. They reached the point of letting me remain in that state of suffering that is petrified, incapable of any slightest motion, even of taking a drop of water, for 18 days, more or less, when they pleased to do so. The Lord alone knows what I was going through in that state, and after they came, I would not even have the good of at least being told, have patience, do the will of God. Rather, I was reproached as capricious and disobedient. Oh God, what pain! How many tears I shed. How many times I thought I was disobedient, saying to myself, how can this be, that virtue which is the most pleasing to the Lord is so far away from me? What good can a disobedient soul ever do or hope for? Many times I lamented to our Lord, and at times I reached the point of being resentful. And when he wanted me to accept sufferings, I would resist as much as I could. But when the Lord saw that I would begin to resist, he showed he would not pay attention to me, and he would not tell me anything else. And then all of a sudden he would come to surprise me. As for what the confessor would say then, it is because sometimes he did not want me to fall into that state. But this was not in my power. It is yet true that I have been disobedient and that I have never been good at anything. But I also remember that the most tormenting pain for me was that of not being able to obey. I remember that during this period of time there was a cholera epidemic, and one day I prayed my good Jesus to make this scourge cease. And he said to me, I will content you as long as you accept offering yourself to suffer whatever I want. I said to him, Lord, no, I cannot. You know how they think. If this thing could pass only between me and you, I would have been most ready to accept everything. And he said to me, My daughter, had I paid attention to what men were thinking and to what they were going to do with me, I would not have operated the redemption of mankind. But I had my eyes fixed on their salvation, and the great love that devoured me made me act in a way that when I would see people who thought ill about me and who caused the occasion to make me suffer more, I would offer those very pains that they gave me for their own salvation. Have you forgotten that what I want from you is the imitation of my life, and that I will make you share in everything I suffered? Don't you know that the most beautiful act, the most heroic and most pleasing to me, and which you must offer to me, is that of offering yourself for the very ones who are against you? I remained mute. I did not know what to answer. I accepted everything that the Lord wanted, and so until evening I was caught by the state of sufferings, and I remained in it for 3 consecutive days. Then, after I came round, I no longer heard anything about the cholera. After this, I received another mortification, and this was having to change confessor, because since he was a religious, he was called back to the convent. I was content with him, and most of those dins mentioned above occurred when he was in the countryside. Especially during the last year, he was my confessor. Because of the cholera spreading in town, he was there for 6 months. My confessor did not give many reproaches. He would let me remain in that state of sufferings for 1 day, and then he would come. So it was less than a month since he had withdrawn to the countryside, and it became known that he was leaving. This was painful for me, not because I was attached, but because of the necessity I had of him. So I went to the Lord and told him of my pain. And he said to me, Do not want to afflict yourself because of this. I am the master of hearts, and I can turn them and turn them again as I please. If he did some good to you, he has been nothing but a vessel, which received me, nothing but a vessel, which received me, and gave to you. So I will do with the others. What do you fear then? My dear, as long as you keep turning your eye now to the right, now to the left, and you let it now set on one thing, now on another, and you do not have your eye fixed in me, you will not be able to walk speedily along the way of heaven. On the contrary, you will always be limping and will not be able to follow the influence of grace. Therefore, I want you to look at all the things that happen around you with holy indifference, remaining all intent on me alone. After these words, my heart acquired so much strength that I suffered little or nothing from such a great loss, and of one who had done so much good to my soul. So it happened that I changed confessor, and I returned to the confessor who used to confess me when I was little. But may the Lord be always blessed, who uses those very ways which appear to be contrary to us, almost as if they were to bring harm to our soul, for our greater good and for his glory. So it happened that I began to open my soul, since up to that point I had not told anything to anyone. As much effort as I would make over myself I could not manage. On the contrary, I would see myself more impotent to tell of the things of my interior. The blushing I felt at the mere thought of telling these things was such that I felt it would have been easier for me to tell the ugliest sins. Where this came from, I don't know. From the confessor, I don't think so, because he was so good, trustful, sweet, patient in listening. He would take a most exact care of the soul. He had his eye on everything, so that I might walk straight. From me, I don't think so either, because I felt a block over my soul, and I had all the will to free myself and to hear at least what the confessor thought about it. But I felt it was impossible for me to do it. To me, I think there was an intervention of the Lord. So finding myself with the new confessor, I began little by little to open my interior. Many times the Lord commanded me to manifest to the confessor what he had told me. And when I would not do it, the Lord would scold me. He would reproach me severely, and at times he reached the point of telling me that if I did not do it, he would not come anymore, which for me is the most bitter pain, such that all other pains compared to this seemed to me nothing other than blades of straw. Therefore, the fear that he would really not come was so great that I did as much as I could in order to manifest my interior. It is true that many times this cost me much, but the fear of losing my dear Jesus would make me overcome everything. On the part of the confessor, I was also pushed to tell him where such a state was coming from, what happened to me when I was in that doziness, what was the cause of it. He would now command me to manifest it. Now he would force me through the precepts of obedience. And now he would place before me the fear that I might be living in illusion and deceit, living within myself, while if I manifested it to the priest, I could be more certain and tranquil, and that the Lord never permits that the priest be mistaken when the soul is obedient. So, Jesus Christ pushed me from one side, the confessor from the other. It seemed to me that sometimes they were banding together, the two of them, the confessor and Jesus Christ. So I managed to manifest my soul. The past confessor would not do that. He would not ask me a single question. He would not try to know what was happening to me in that state of doziness. And so I myself did not know how to come out to talk about these things. The concern he had was that I be resigned, conformed to the will of God, bearing the cross that the Lord had given me, so much so that if sometimes he saw me a little bothered, he would suffer great disappointment. So it happened that I spent another year with this confessor in the same state described above. And since the confessor knew where that state of suffering was coming from, he told me that when Jesus Christ wanted me to have sufferings, I should go to him to ask for the obedience. I remember that one morning after communion, the Lord told me, "Daughter, the iniquities that are committed are so many that the scale of my justice is about to overflow. Now, know that I will pour my heavy scourges upon men, especially a most fierce war, in which I will make a slaughter of human flesh." Ah, yes, he continued, almost crying, "I gave bodies to men that they might be as many sanctuaries where I would go and delight in them. But they have turned them into sewers of rot, whose stench is such that they force me to stay far away from them. See what recompense I receive for so much love, and for the so many pains that I suffered for them. Who has ever been treated like me? Ah, no one. But what is the cause? It is the excessive love I have for them. Therefore, I will try with the chastisements." I felt my heart split with pain. It seemed to me that the offenses they were giving him were so many that in order to escape, he wanted to hide within me, almost to find refuge. I also felt such pains because men were to be chastised, that it seemed to me that I, not they, was to suffer. Even more, it seemed to me that had I been able to, it would have been more bearable for me to suffer all those chastisements myself, rather than to see others suffer. I tried to compassionate him as much as I could, and with all my heart I said to him, "O holy spouse, hold back the scourges which your justice keeps prepared. If the multiplicity of the iniquities of men is great, there is the immense sea of your blood in which you can bury them, and so your justice will be satisfied. If you have nowhere to go to delight yourself, come into me. I will give you all my heart, that you may somehow rest and delight with it. It is true that I too am a bilge of vices, but you can purify me and make of me what you want. But oh, please placate yourself, Lord. If the sacrifice of my life is necessary, oh, how gladly I would make it for you, as long as I may see your own images spared. And the Lord, interrupting my speaking, continued telling me, here is exactly where I wanted you. If you offer yourself to suffer, no longer every now and then as up until now, but continuously, every day, for a certain given time, I will spare men. See how I will do it? I will put you between my justice and the iniquities of the creatures. And when my justice sees itself filled with iniquities to the point of not being able to contain them, and is forced to send the thunderbolts of the scourges in order to chastise the creatures, and finding you in the middle, instead of striking them, you are the one who will remain struck. Only in this way will I be able to content you in sparing men, not otherwise. I remained all confused. I didn't know what to tell him. My nature did its part, being frightened and trembling, but I saw that my good Jesus was waiting for an answer, whether I accepted it or not. So seeing myself almost forced to speak, I said to him, O my most divine spouse, on my part, I would be ready to accept, but how is it going to work out with the confessor? If he does not want to come every once in a while, how can it be possible that he will come every day? Free me from this cross, that the confessor be needed in order to free me, and then everything will be arranged between you and me. Then the Lord said to me, go to the confessor and ask him for the obedience. If he wants, you will tell him everything I told you, and you will stick to whatever he says. See, it will not only be for the good of creatures that I want these continuous sufferings, but also for your good. In this state of sufferings, I will purify your soul thoroughly, in such a way as to dispose you to form a mystical marriage with me. And after this, I will make the final transformation, in such a way that the two of us will become like two candles placed on the fire. One is transformed into the other, and they become one. In this way, I will transform myself into you, and you will remain crucified with me. Ah, would you not be happy if you could say, the bridegroom is crucified, but the bride is also crucified? Ah, yes, there is nothing that renders me dissimilar from him.